All right, brother.
The weekly way. Oh, I can't spend the nose. You like it still on the second listen, then we know. You know? Oh, keep telling home. The weekly way. Did you see it? The weekly way. I'm glad you stopped by. Take him to him, baby. My first guitar teacher was a Beatles nut, like a true connoisseur. So
I could talk Beatles and or Hendrix all night.
really
Easy.
on Hendrix, I'm still less school than I like to be. You know, and I know that's just like it's a listening thing.
Wherever you want to start with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to go. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can talk over this too, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they'll be able to hear us.
What is it, the algorithm?
What's going on in your algorithm? Noah Wotherspoon, what's going on, player?
Oh, it's still a lot of Hendrix.
Still?
Yeah, it's there's a few constants in my life.
Really?
Bob Dylan, the Beatles, and Hendrix. It's almost like a holy trinity of sorts. But yeah, it's like if I go onto YouTube, which I'm on often, Hendrix is usually at the top, some random video that's posted.
Yeah, is that the main place you go to scroll? Is that like your social media as well?
Yeah, I use Facebook still.
Yeah.
Instagram occasionally. But just to view music and literature and lectures or whatever, I go to YouTube a lot.
Yeah. I was looking at your page the other day, and then I was looking to find your page. When I look up your name on YouTube, everything but your page comes up. It's all these videos other people have taken of you over the years, and I got to see like Noah Wotherspoon at 17 or 18 with like a long ass hair at some kind of hippie festival, wailing, and I was like, I'm glad to see that this is definitely not coming out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like,
right on.
When did you pick it up?
Guitar?
Yeah.
I was 11. Well, yeah, music was around the house growing up. My mom listened to a wide variety of stuff from, like, oldies like Chuck Berry, Elvis, to Bob Marley and the Wailers. And she had a lot of, like, reggae cassettes, I remember. Like Jimmy Cliff, Bob Marley.
That's very rad.
And but I really took more of a, like, invested interest around 9 and 10.
Okay.
My older brother, Adam, he and his best friend his best friend Greg, he would bring over VHS tapes of like guitar-oriented stuff. Guns N' Roses. They were still like at their height. We're talking like 92, 93.
What would you say is their height? Like Appetite for Destruction? Or like, I don't know them.
They had kind of like a climactic peak with the User Illusion stuff, and like he would bring over bootleg tapes that he got from a guitar show. Back when pre-YouTube, it was like everything was more like this relic that he found. Like, check, this is Guns N' Roses in Tokyo, and we'd all sit around as a family, like, oh wow, and it was like intense. I remember like seeing that stuff and or Hendrix, and it was like very visceral and powerful, and like my palms would be sweaty, like because that's hilarious. I'm used to like reading Rainbow and pretty pristine innocent stuff, and here's like Slash in Tokyo, or Hendrix getting feedback and up against his amp and all that, and it was like, what is all this, man? Yeah.
And this is like 9, 10, where you're just going where your big brother goes, and like this seems to be an interesting piece. Like, how do a bunch of kids at that age listen to music together? It's just everyone boxed around a stereo in a bedroom or something, or are you on like a living room setup?
Funny, that's a wild way to look at it, because I never realized that maybe that visual aspect really pulled me in.
Yeah, well, the shared experience and like getting to see something that, like you said, like it's raunchy in a very different way than anyone had seen.
Wow,
like
that's almost revelatory for me, because now I'm just realizing that music was always on the radio and here and there, but I think until that immersive experience in front of a TV, like seeing Hendrix in Europe, going into Foxy Lady, that was kind of like, okay, it's so
it can stunt your system as a kid, I'm sure.
So it was around that time where I think I wanted drums first, and I think I got a little Yamaha drum machine that I end up using in a school assembly around the 3rd grade.
Nice.
And then I realized...
What year is that?
Oh, geez. Wow, 3rd grade for me? early 90s. And then I just realized a drum kit would be a lot to set up and carry around. I think that was almost the motivation to move toward a guitar. I remember Wayne's World was out at the same time.
Nice.
And they sort of glorified, that white Strat when he was picking that up. And
yes.
There was just a lot of guitar stuff, and Greg was bringing these guitars that he either got at pawn shop.
Greg's your brother?
Greg, best friend of my brother.
Cool.
Another older brother.
Yeah.
And he'd like show up in the evening, and like he'd have this new tweed case, and it was like a very ritualistic thing, and I really wasn't allowed to go near it, almost, like open it up, and there's like some new guitar that he just got, and it was like this thing, and then it was like, careful with that, Noah. Okay, it was like, even to like touch it felt kind of special,
Mm-hmm.
So
that might explain your reverence when someone. A lot of people probably bring you nice guitars to play. At this point in your career, as people see you as a player, that you sound like you through these instruments, and people like to experience that. If they hold on to a guitar that has that flavor, they take it to motherfuckers like you just to see what's gonna happen. For sure, man, you wail.
That's very kind.
But that probably explains, like, you had a feeling of reverence towards someone sharing their instrument with you. I mean, you're so kind in there. Some guys just grab something off the wall and start ripping, and that's their attitude. It's like...
Yeah, it's funny looking back in my memory and those cases opening up, there was like a glint on it, like, angelic music somewhere. So it had that effect on me. And finally, I was 11. My brother, he felt compelled to buy me a guitar for my 11th birthday, which was a really great thing, And,
what a beautiful gift to give.
And shortly after, I fell right into taking lessons, and I had a lot of interests up until then, but all of a sudden it just kind of enveloped me. I remember. Like,
is there a riff that you associate with that time in your life, like the first time you were on fire for it?
Oh wow! What's funny is my experience during that time was I was really. The Guns N' Roses stuff really pulled me in, and he played me Stevie Ray Vaughan, like a video of him at El Macambo, which over the years becomes more and more amazing. But at the time, I was 10, and I didn't really get it yet. It was like, these songs are long. I didn't really have the emotional connection to it yet. Mm-hmm. But I remember he had another video that just had music videos of him, and there was that. Couldn't Stand the Weather, and I just thought that was such a tough riff, just tough sounding. And I remember being in class with my teacher, and we were sort of hit a wall of like, well, what do you want to learn next? And he was going through, do you remember those long cartons that would be at a comic book store that they keep comics in? That's where he kept all his tab. It was Michael Harris. He's a virtuoso guitar player that I first started with at Ace Music.
Dude, that's awesome.
And he's going through, and well, what can we learn next? Because like my first attempt was Knocking on Heaven's Door, the Guns N' Roses version.
Cool.
Because I was obsessed with them.
Do you ever play that version now?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you ever play the song now?
No. But I've since become a very obsessive Dylan fan. All things Dylan.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going through this carton, and he said, "Oh, here's some Stevie Ray Vaughan." And I was like, "Oh yeah, what do you have?" And he said, "Well, yeah, there's Couldn't Stand the Weather." And I remember, so I took that home for a week, and all of a sudden, it was like my port of entry, because it seemed to fall under my fingers a little easier or more naturally than other stuff I was trying.
Word.
And I almost naturally started moving in this direction before becoming incredibly interested and immersed in it.
Yeah.
So,
do you associate that with like pentatonic scales and like that shape of playing and like seeing the boxes and associating like that?
Yeah, I'd say as far as lead playing, Stevie Ray Vaughan was definitely my port of entry or window in.
The lick box, who becomes this?
The way that, I don't know how he looked at the neck, but that was sort of the first map I think I really started getting.
That's such an interesting
or becoming
way to
oriented to.
Yeah, because every guy will show you how they navigate the neck, and you might learn through that vessel. Like, that's why there's guitar players every generation that sound like Stevie or sound like Jimmy, and then a lot of guys that change and learn from John Mayer's way of navigating, and that becomes a new guitar god in that sense. And then you have guys that it's just like they show you how to look at the instrument.
Yeah, these different orientations to the constellations here. You know, it's wild. You're right, and I just met a young player that I think is great. He's from Fort Wayne. His name's Noah Pavey, and you know, I think he looks at the neck like this cage system, which I know very little about, but it makes a lot of sense to me, and you know, it's a different perspective.
Yeah,
you know,
but I've never learned that system necessarily. I think it's one of those, you know, like phrases you see in the world of guitar education very frequently.
Yeah.
But I think like the same discipline I've learned with a loop pedal in front of me, because if you want to sound thicker on your chorus, you can't play the same G twice. It's like you need a new version of that G. So the first time you learn, it's like free falling. So if I'm going to move that up, I go my D shape. Yeah. And I learned to associate those boxes with like your BB box and things like that.
Right. That's beautiful.
Well, I still haven't touched on the modes thing. Is that something that heavily influenced your playing?
Modes, I still don't know what that is. Yeah. You know, after all these years, I have a very, at times I thought maybe I was getting a glimpse of what that meant, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, I through the years, I think I deliberately started trying. I sort of investigated or delved into Hendrix more so later.
Word.
And then he's just endlessly fascinating, and you're always hearing new things every time you visit anything of his. And his perspective seemed more, let's say, non-linear, and just where do you even start there? But you know, I started looking at more of connecting the dots up the neck in a certain fashion, you know, and wanting to play more of that way, and wanting to get out of whatever box I might be in.
Yeah.
You know.
One thing that I loved about watching your playing for the first time the other day at this beautiful event that Mike Reeder put on at the Village Theater, and God bless him for doing so.
Yes.
You know, that he's got a special thing going on there, but anyone that chooses to bring people into their space to try to give them something special, and just to do it for a great cause, you know, it has no benefit to them in the long run. It's just about kicking ass and listening again. Like,
the intentions are pure. Yeah.
Yes. And our listener populace always deserves the best. It's like, that's what I'm finding, that if I want the most out of my city, I need to treat these listeners with such appreciation and consideration as we move forward with things, that there's better rooms and there's better shows and whatnot. And to go up there and do my thing is a blast. But then to ask you to come up and rip it, even better. And then to watch you melt my face, you know, in a mirror in the upstairs bathroom, like, God damn, Noah Wotherspoon. You know what I mean? I drank this margarita in a can, 12.5%, Noah. It was my birthday. I was hammered at this point. I'm hanging out with my fiance, and then it's like, I got to go hang out by myself. And I'm just up in the bathroom, just looking in the mirror like, God damn, Noah Wotherspoon's melting this thing.
Well, that was my first chance getting to hear you and meeting you, and I was blown away.
Thanks, man. I had a good time playing, and again, like,
your whole deal. I mean, your voice, and then your command of the loop thing and your original music. It was a full onslaught of the senses, man. I was.
That's the only thing I could ever hope. What a beautiful thing to be able to say, man. Thank you.
I sat next to Dave Swart, who I've had the pleasure of getting to know more in the past few months here. And I'm just like, oh my God, this guy's incredible, and I can't believe this is my first time hearing him do his thing, and you were so nice to have me up, and I was watching you, and a lot of music came to mind that, you know, I love, and you're totally your own thing, but like thoughts of Jeff Buckley seemed to be coming up.
You said that, and I was so touched. I didn't listen to Grace until maybe 5 years ago, and I listened to it like once a month. It's such a beautiful work of art, and to think that that seeps into your head and you can have any kind of impression of is such a great compliment, man.
Well, you were tapping into some transcendental realms and with your vocals and just whole thing, and and then your command with the loops and the drum sequence stuff. My knowledge of that is I don't know if it's a generational thing, but I'm a little behind. But in the past, I don't say decade, I found sort of retro versions of that I fell in love with. Two that come to mind would be Shuggie Otis, who he was the son of a great legendary band leader, Johnny Otis, but he made these like home recordings with a old Rhythm Ace or Rhythm King that has its own charm. And then also I stumbled upon this guy named Arthur Russell, who was like popular in that late 70s, early 80s New York scene, which is kind of like, makes me think of Andy Warhol and the Factory and a lot of experimental things happening.
Yeah.
He was a cellist, guitar player, singer, I think classically trained, but, he made everything that from sort of neoclassical to almost like video game music and, lo-fi, very like still, it sounds like super hip stuff that just came out, like that you'd hear an OTR in some little underground bar. Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's funny you said video game music. I met this guy on a show on Friday named Bobby Shields. Shout out Bobby from Chicago.
Oh, right.
And what he does is reprogram Game Boys to have like bass-driven music that's very techno, and then he plays drums behind it.
So would that be 8-bit?
I guess.
Yeah,
I don't
16-bit or something, yeah.
I guess I don't know what the fidelity of those machines would be, but like that's such an interesting thought. But I love hearing people go to those places, and I appreciate that that comes off in some way with the loop pedal. It's one of those things that enabled me a lot as a young guitar player to practice and have space in my shows.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a band for a lot of my life.
And I find that there's a soul there.
There's definitely a play. There's still a back and forth going on.
Yeah.
And my heroes like Prince could make a machine that would seem rigid, so diverse and dynamic.
Yeah, we could talk about him for quite a while. But the second you said Prince, it made me think of. I always call this guy sort of the Prince of the '70s. Are you hip to Johnny Guitar Watson?
I've heard the name, but I don't know him as a player.
He's a fascinating study because there's two major incarnations of him. Like you said shapeshifter earlier.
Yeah.
This is a great example. He was like a recording artist, late 50s, early 60s, that was, I would call, not traditional blues, but, old school blues sounding stuff, Texas. And then he basically totally reinvented his image, the way he dressed, and basically became a funk guy in the 70s. And pioneered a lot of stuff with drum machines, and a lot of hip hop and guys and stuff would later sample him.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's
worth checking out.
Well, it's almost like Bootsy in a way, where it's like you think about the way that someone saw psychedelia as an opportunity to be the character they want to be, and like. As someone that's a solo artist, over the years, have you felt like you needed to develop a character of who Noah Wotherspoon is on stage?
Well, I'm still playing around with it, and I've maybe that comes from my fascination with shapeshifters.
Yeah,
Dylan would be, I guess, is almost like as Arnold would say, numero uno. And these guys that have 5, 10, however many incarnations. And they're exploring the space and inspired by maybe their immediate circumstance or surroundings or where they are at that certain time in their life, what they're going through, and who's in their band, who's what they're listening to, and they form a certain expression of that moment. That's always been amazing to me, and people that have survived, if they're really lucky, commercially that way, but. I don't know how important that even is.
Yeah, it's debatable. Finances are freedom.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest artists that we all appreciate deserve the freedom to keep doing that. So that's one of the things that we've learned, and the opportunity to have a business that is music is like you need to adequately value yourself and your product and price it and hopefully find a market for it. For the love of God, find a market for it. But all things considered, like if someone liked the product, if it's 1-to-1, which is the beauty of the internet, like it can be enough, you know.
Yeah.
On my birthday, on a given Sunday, like your show was enough to take me there to fill my tank for a long time. And
that's the kindest thing you could ever tell someone.
Well, absolutely, man. I think that's the essence of community that's going to make a place special, and makes me excited about getting to do something like this so I connect with folks that are down the street in some senses, but can really give you that. And one thing I want to ask about your guitar playing is you think about learning the neck through a voice like Hendrix or something like that, and developing these shapes. And then as a player, one day you realize that your eyes are free of what's going on here, and you can start to get into different places and different knots that you can untangle and whatnot.
Yeah.
So at what age do you kind of start to cue into that side of your playing where you stopped replicating?
Wow.
You just started implementing.
That's a deep, heavy question I've never been asked.
I'm glad. Take a drink on it if you need to. Hallelujah. Thank you again, Seth, for the bourbon.
Yeah.
My buddy gave me this on my birthday.
Actually, I'll have you edit this out so my mama doesn't write in.
If she ends up in the comments on YouTube, I'll send her a bottle of liquor. That's the only way. Salute.
Thank you, man. Okay, yeah. Let me think about that. Wow. Well, I might need a moment. So when I was about 13, and my interest in blues sort of was increasing or deepening, someone took note of that. I was at a rehearsal for a gig. They said, I noticed you're kind of playing a lot of blues. You should go down to the Blues Jam on 5th Street. And it was every Monday night. Blind Bob's used to be called the Night Owl.
Cool. This is Dayton?
Dayton, Ohio.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it was owned by a guy named Paul Cuppin.
Are you born and raised Dayton?
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Go Flyers.
Yeah, I love Dayton, and there's so much music history to talk about there. But my mom took me down on a Monday night to the Night Owl, and the Soulcasters were the host band, and I still remember, walking in and seeing this guy, tall, lanky, long red hair and a ponytail, playing I think a white Strat or a black Les Paul. I can't remember that, but it was the Soulcasters, and the guitar player was Tim Arnold. And he went on break, and I remember like, I think he handed me his guitar, and I started playing Couldn't Stand the Weather. That was like my calling card or something. And he said, okay, I see what you're doing. And he was like, that's great, yeah. And I remember he had a business card, and on the back of it, he wrote about 10 or 15 names. He was like, you need to go listen to these guys. This is who Stevie liked, what he listened to. And it was like Albert Collins and, names I was pretty new to.
Yeah.
And he said, you should come over.
Would you mind stating some of those names as well?
Oh, yeah.
Cause I don't know that I'm hip on them.
I can remember that card. It was the back of the Soulcasters. The front said Soulcasters, Messing with the Blues. And on the back, he had written in pen Albert Collins, Robert Nighthawk, probably Muddy Waters, Ronnie Earl. I think Danny Gatton was even included. He's more of an across-the-board player. But, he also said, you should start coming over for lessons. So I started doing weekly lessons at his apartment downtown.
Wow.
And, they were hour-long lessons, and they were pretty informal. There wasn't like technical. It was more like abstract imagery he would use to say. An example would be, okay, the Muddy Waters box, and it would be this. If you're an E, he's like, it's this L shape. So I'm a half step down. I apologize.
You're fine.
So yeah. So you're looking at this bar chord and the top here. He's like, that's the Muddy Waters box, So and it, and he would write it out, tab, and kind of outline.
Yeah.
And so that,
So it's like the top of like the A shape. of your E, you're saying?
Or like, the bar chord of an E.
Yeah, so where you got most your slide meat, I would kind of consider that.
Exactly. It's where the meat on the bone is, and there's those top two strings. And a lot of it was just watching him do it.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of osmosis. You're listening. So, yeah, and that space in between,
Yeah.
But this is your home bases. And you're sliding into those two, whatever in that L.
So is this the first time you're playing slide as a kid, too?
My first slide lesson was that L shape that he called the Muddy Waters box. And, and man, I still resort to it now. It's kind of like home.
It's an amazing home. And, I think the eye-opening of a slide on a guitar, like... another great guitar hero of like a new generation is Derek Trucks. It's like the motherfucker at this point.
One of the greats of all time now.
Yeah, and in my book, he opened my mind up to notes that were in between notes in a different way and I didn't realize that bends were trying to achieve that in maybe a less resonant way. Yeah. It's like you get on the other side of the string and there's nothing to grab onto, man.
Right.
But you can tune. You can tune and you can push, and like your half steps have more oomph, and glide.
Yeah, and it's almost delving into the dirt of all root music, and all from around the world. From Eastern Indian music to these microtonal spaces that are very vocal. And they're the notes in between the notes in between the notes.
Yeah. Because everything else is out of tune when it's out of tune. It's like the voice is not out of tune. The voice is in between in some ways. And like you can watch a trombone get in there, and that's neat. They have a different glide. But there's something so bizarre about... So I would love to hear about your slide preferences too.
Yeah, I would love to talk about it. So, I have... another influence on my life, my musical life, spiritual life as well. A guy named Greg Drum, who was from Dayton. He moved out west, but he made slides from blown glass ones to. He would give me those, and they'd always vibrate off my amp and shatter. They were beautiful. It was tragic. But he also made.
You run a hot amp too. Like I like watching you. I told my fiance this. Yeah. I'm someone that runs around with a Helix, and I click my shit on, I click my shit off. I don't play a lot between my rig. I love watching a guy who sculpts as he plays. You know what I mean? Like the vessel is never complete. It's like the amp's gonna get pushed, the pedals are gonna get tweaked, and we're gonna go into microtonal land. It's gonna be amazing, man.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The way that was poetry, and it almost goes for other areas, whether you're writing or producing, or there's this there's a vulnerability to the process. You're kind of jumping into the fire, so to speak, and you're leaving yourself open to detours and the unknown, and
for sure,
and that's all plays into that,
And I think also the freedom of like you watch someone carry their home into a gig, all the gear that we lug, and it's like when you see guys use it for a reason, there's a reason that you're playing Mike's Esquire through that amp, and I don't know what that amp was, but it was burning the room down, man.
Yeah, that little amp that he's got down there is something. Yeah. I know the one you're talking about. So what's funny is over the years I've really gravitated toward these bronze or brass slides. I had one from Greg for years, and I ended up, I had a gig down in Salvatierra, Mexico, and the guy that put it on, it felt like the right time to sacrifice it. It was like, here you go, man.
So what called you to that gig? Why'd you end up in Salvatierra, Mexico? What in God's name?
An email out of the blue. Yeah, and
that's amazing, man.
Yeah, that's I don't know if you've ever been down that way. It's kind of right down in the cradle, like central Mexico.
I'm not well traveled in that regard. No.
It's like I think the oldest settled town down there.
That's so rad.
And there's a feeling I got there I've never had before.
What's the room like? Where'd you play?
We were outdoors, in sort of the center of town, in front of the church that's always been there. the church is sort of the heart of the town, you know.
Yeah.
And man, you know, it was wild because they put us on last. It almost felt like a joke or a prank because all these bands that were coming out of, you know, that made it there from Mexico City, and like they're like this stew of fusion and jazz and funk, and they're all killing, man.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, we got to follow this stuff. You know, but
when also you're following locals, you know what I mean? Like, you never know what the local flavor is. You're stepping on the stage where you don't speak the language. You know, you're the out of towner.
Yeah, do I even speak? Yeah, do I even speak? But I've never felt more at home, or I mean, they treated us so well, and but yeah, my last Greg drum slide went to Vicente down there.
Shout out Vicente.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's also a vet down there.
What a kick-ass dude.
Yeah, but yeah, I like these.
And why brass? What feels different?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Sometimes I feel like there's more friction on a brass slide.
For some reason, it just got to be the most comfortable for me.
Yeah. Can we quit teasing the people and play something for them? My goodness.
Oh, yeah, man. Do you want to play a blues together?
Yeah, let's just get into a 12 bar, man. Right. I'll sit in your E.
Told my baby once upon a time, you said if I be yours, you'd sure be mine. That's alright. I know I'm loving on a fool, baby. That's alright. Well, ever now that I wonder who's loving you tonight. Told my baby, love for me was strong. I woke up this morning, little girlie, big boys was gone. That's alright. I don't love another fool, baby. That's alright. Every now that I wonder who's loving you tonight. Tell me, babe, what's getting wrong with you? Don't treat me halfway like you used to do. That's alright. I don't love another fool, babe. That's alright. Well, ever now that I wonder who's loving you tonight. We'll play one, babe. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
You a bad motherfucker, Noah.
Right back at you, my friend. Good God.
Oh, man, E flat on the slide had me 10 times confused. You know what I mean?
Didn't sound like it to me.
Well, what's a beautiful thing about that instrument, where it's like, it's all kind of a mistake, you know what I mean? Like, it's never perfect, and it really gets you to know that side of yourself in a humbling way. Like, you can be so much raunchier in between the notes, but you need to be comfortable in between the notes, and that takes some heroic bullshit, you know, for Derek Trucks to just do that from a young age. Messes with me.
Yeah, he's one of the ascended masters of the whole thing, and another guy that in the last couple of years that recently passed, Jeff Beck.
Oh my God.
You know, growing up, I'll be forthright. I didn't fall into him right away. I didn't understand. I wasn't ready for him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Maybe 5 years ago, I something pulled me in, and in the last couple of years, I've been most interested in his last decade of work, because it's like he exemplifies someone that, a real artist, someone that obviously was not resting on any kind of laurels, and just kept pushing the boundaries of his music and music in general, probably. Mm-hmm. You know, and
very unwavering, you know, in a career full of people that everyone wants to be successful, and he's in a weird category of success that is his own, you know, like driven hole into the earth, man. He like paved the way,
pioneering, carving his own thing.
Yeah, and
unapologetically just.
And I think now in his absence, we'll be able to appreciate that a little bit more, because you take it for granted. I mean, he's still this man that's touring in every part of the world that they'll let him. You know,
when he left, you felt this void of like, oh wow, well there's nobody else here to do what he was doing. And it's like, what fascinates me, like I'd say from 2000 on, he started to like experiment with electronic music, and then you know, it seemed like he was just shaping his tone more and more, and then the microtonal aspects of his playing became even more vocal. Mm-hmm. Like he was doing stuff that was, you know, like Eastern Indian sort of influenced stuff that sounded like a voice, and it was getting into that territory where like it's almost like he could have been playing any instrument, or he transcended the guitar. Mm. It was like he took it to something that wasn't even guitar. It was just a voice.
Yeah.
You know.
It was a voice that you heard very clearly. And I think the obscurity of that, like you said, like he still shaped his tone, and he still understood that voice, and it's almost like a Jedi wisdom for a lot of guys. Like, I don't think there'd be a Steve Vai or Joe Satriani without a Jeff Beck. You know, it's like that
he kicked
boldness,
all that off too.
Yeah, of the boldness of guitar player, front man, nothing else. You know, just like there's another guy in that category that I'm not very hip to, but he played Les Paul. Gary Moore, is that name?
Oh, yeah.
I think he's the other figure in my mind in that category of just like this is the voice you will know me for, undebatably, you know?
Yeah. He was like, yeah, oh my God, that guy's a monster. So, I was thinking of Jeff Beck, and we mentioned Jeff Buckley earlier, and it was this wild, like, I don't know, some synchronicity or something, because I was already listening to a ton of Jeff Buckley, and you know, he only in his lifetime only finished that one record, which was all anybody would need to do for a lifetime.
Yeah.
But
what a strange martyrdom that is.
Yeah.
Where it's like the universe frames someone in such a particular light that you can't help see them besides this one
immaculate
epic thing. Yeah, exactly. Immaculate's a really weird way to put it, but it's right. It's like, you know, and all the greats we lose early get put in that category.
Yeah. So I had been immersed in his music pretty deeply, and then as I'm studying Jeff Beck on one of his like last records a few back, I think it's called Emotion and a Commotion, he does 2 to 3 covers of Jeff Buckley. And so here you have a great artist interpreting another great artist, and you know, really sounding like a voice, and you know, and it's like, I was talking to a friend, it's almost like if you're a great imitator, like on SNL, like Dana Carvey.
Yeah.
I heard Norm Macdonald talk about this. He said, if you're going to imitate someone, you kind of need to love them. Like, you know, he said the problem with a lot of imitations currently it's more of in a mocking, hateful way almost.
Yeah.
And he said that's the beautiful thing about it. And so I almost feel like if you're going to interpret someone, you gotta love them.
That's so fascinating. Well, you say that, and like I think of like Dana Carvey doing George Bush, where it's like he's charming when he does that in a very bizarre way. It's like
he's endeared by some aspect of
him. He's mocking him in an absolute sense, but he found out the one little bit of charm that you can put in that to make it convincing. It's like, do you have to love them? No, but you have to figure out what's lovable about them and crush that. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably parallel to the musical interpretation thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why bother if you don't love what you're, you know?
Yeah, well, sometimes you're forced to listen to things and they come out and you're playing, and that's kind of weird. Like, you know, there's a built-in therapeutic aspect to this that I don't think we've seen the parallels with you know, the new world of therapy, where you sit there with a person. It's like, this asks questions of you that another person does not ask. And songs are heavy in that, and guitars are heavy in that when they tell you things and they demand things of you, and that's very eerie. But
I've never heard these things worded that way. That's beautiful.
Thanks, brother. That's what you get when you just get to sit down and talk with a buddy. It's
you know, that also brings to mind. I didn't play at all during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't gig. When that hit. Just played it safe, you know, and managed to survive a year and just do writing and some home recording and all that, reading. But I noticed a deprived feeling, and what you're getting to, that cathartic relationship you have with something that is such, that is pulling things out of you that you can't really get anywhere else.
Yeah.
I remember feeling that absence,
Yeah, well, there's such a sense of longing that, like, you want something that pushes your boundaries. It's just part of our person. It's part of the crazy that gets built in to make sure you survive.
Right.
And a lot of our calm lifestyles don't support that in the way that this does. It's like, you don't seem to be a crazy person till you start playing that motherfucking guitar, and then people realize that in the same way that we are all crazy, that guy is crazy, the things you think and the things you think through.
Yeah. If you watch a video of Sunhouse or Jeff Buckley singing at the top of his lungs, or, whomever, Mavis Staples, it's like,
or even Geddy Lee, just like it's like
there's a crazy ecstasy going on.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a character too. It's like once you start to develop your stage character, you can either become that thing or you can interact with that thing, you know? And sometimes that feels like what the looper is to me. It's like, it's a friend at play. And, you know, when you find the right gimmick, you know, when you become Bootzilla, baby, when it starts being the rubber band, it's like there's a relief in that. And he never came out of the character, didn't need to do so.
Yeah. It's a beautiful character. You know what's funny is, you know, I'm whatever generation I am. I consider myself an elder millennial. I don't know. 82 I was born.
Yeah. But years help me better than the titles. I'm like, I don't see why you got lumped decades. Like, if they like Hot Pockets, I know when they were born. You know, if they're a pizza roll kind of kid, I think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But what's funny is I remember when I was in high school, the Line 6 big green delay pedal came out, which had a 14-second looper on it.
Yeah.
And I got that thing. I remember watching Letterman and all the late night shows, and like every guitar player had one, every keyboard player had one. It was like on top of their B3.
Yeah.
Because it had, you know, Echoplex mods and, you know, models of all the great delays through the years. Anyway, I got one, and I had already been attempting to write, and I was listening to Dylan and Beatles and what was wild was for me, I think it was basically like a multi-track recorder, you know, like having a Tascam or a reel-to-reel where I was able just to find a second part for something and find a harmony for a guitar part. Mm-hmm. And I'll admit here, the DL4 was like where my writing really started, because that was my multi-track, my first chance to multi-track, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
what an interesting breakthrough where like the first time you get to view yourself in an objective is the first time you might feel like an artist. For a lot of people, that's the first time you record or the first time you play yourself back.
Yeah.
You know, you can finally look at yourself in the objective because you don't have to participate in making it happen.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I actually today, for some reason, it was like one of the first songs I ever wrote.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and it was thanks to that thing. But you would never know unless I confess that.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a folky sounding song.
But it'd be nice to have the looper to re-express what that idea was, man. Like,
yeah, thinking back, I remember I had this riff. I don't know if the chords or the riff came first, but that green pedal.
Yeah.
Who I've gotten to know a little bit just via text and email, and the creator of that, or he was the head of the team, George Trips. He created Way Huge pedals. Now he works with Dunlop.
Cool.
He's a super cool guy and a genius.
Do you have any endorsements in your life? Have you?
A bit of an informal one with him. I don't think he'd call it that, but he's been really cool and
great to have relationships with those folks. They're musical enablers, man. And
I don't have any official endorsement. That'd be cool. A string one would be nice.
Dude, I think that's something that happens when you treat listeners right in a community. That they spend time going to see the shows. Companies can look at what you're doing as a way to push product, and that's totally fair, and it helps the GDP of the community.
Yes.
To have those things around. It's like
you
need cash flow and opportunity and mutually seen value in the shows. You know?
Yeah. I love where you're coming from.
We need to get paid more. No.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. That'd be an interesting area to talk about.
Yeah. But don't tease him. You got to play this song.
Okay, yeah. So it's
turn
called
the reverb on.
It's called "Don't Leave Me Behind." I think I'm in the right. The Appalachian chord cheater is in the right spot. I've got true love to give. I've got true love to give. It's just four walls and nobody else. What do I do with this? What do I do with this? I'm tired of keeping it all to myself. I should be staring in your eyes of serenity, but But instead I'm looking down the barrel of eternity. Don't leave me behind. Don't leave me behind. Every time we meet, every time we meet, sacrifice a piece of my soul. I need another heart, I need another heart. This one has worn a hole. I should be staring in your eyes of serenity, but instead I'm looking down the barrel of eternity. Don't leave me behind. Don't leave me behind. Pick up all my broken pieces, put myself back together. You sure made a mess of me. Sorry if I did the same to you. Your latest flame is alright, your latest flame is fine. I wouldn't wanna hurt a brother. But if we were meant to be, if we were not meant to be, I'd rather be alone forever. I should be staring in your eyes of serenity, but instead I'm looking down the barrel of eternity. Don't leave me behind. Don't leave me behind. Don't leave me behind. Yeah, yeah.
Fuck yeah. How old were you when you wrote that?
I remember, I think I was about 20. I had just graduated high school, and my friend Greg had let me borrow a guitar very much like that, and it just always called to be played.
That's awesome.
And I think I got home from a gig.
You want a player?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, take it. Let's do some picking, man.
Do you want to try?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah. Sorry about my rusty strings.
Facilitate this.
Good
brother, I don't mind. Thank you so much. I also got some guitars here from my buddy Bill. These 100-year-old.
Oh, wow.
100-year-old resonators. He was like, "You want to borrow these?" I was like, "Dude, I'm hanging out with Noah Wotherspoon on Wednesday. Bring them over." That saint of a man carried these guitars down from somewhere like Springfield and Brown to Les Players. So it's on the floor next to you. I got one over here. We'll get on in a second.
Oh, wow.
Oh, bro. This one's special. One thing that Clapton and Mayer made me realize about the triple lots is they are so punchy. They have these tight mids.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you wanna get funky on an acoustic,
yeah,
this shape is so enabling. Like the
it's beautiful.
One of my mama's favorites, man. Oh my god. If I could reach the stars, I'd pull one down for you, shining on my heart, so you could see the truth. Without this love I have inside, is everything it seems. But for now I'll fight. It's only in the dreams that I could change the world. I won't be this so loud in your universe. You would think your love was really something good. Maybe if I could change the world, or My mama Noah's gonna play a solo for you. My goodness, I hope you watch up to this point. Yeah. Yeah, bro. I'm gonna take it from the top and give you a little song. Know your stuff now, Gina. If I could be your king, even for a day, I'd take you as my queen. I'd have it no other way. And I love in this kingdom we made, but now I'll be your fool. Wishing for the day I could change you. We'll be the sunlight in your universe. You would think our love's really something good. Maybe if I could change the world. Oh, my world is over, bro. That was so nice. Also, I was talking shit about playing slide in E flat. That's all Noah Wotherspoon in E flat. You monster.
That's the beautiful thing about slide. If you're on the, what did Les Paul say? If you're on the wrong note, you're a half step away from the right one.
I heard that quote from Victor Wooten, and it's always been in my head, man. You're a half step away from the right note every
profound,
time.
Yeah, I think that applies to
It's such
life.
a safety net, man. Dude, that is heavy.
Yeah.
If you don't change too much shit at once, you're always a half step away from getting it right.
Worry.
Yeah,
you're a half step away from the right stuff.
Dude, thanks for playing that guitar like that. That was the
Good God, yeah. This is dangerous. And
the first nice guitar I ever got, and it was because of my kind parents who saw that. My dad asked me when I was 14, he's like, "You want to do this the rest of your life?" And I was like, I'd love to. And he goes, "We're gonna make that happen."
Yeah.
And he got me an LLC.
Yeah.
He showed me how to run a business. He told me you need to get some gigs. He told me you need to write some songs.
Yeah.
My dad still calls me most days. He's like, "What'd you get done on this front? Did you write some songs?" So it's like, that's support, bro. But
yeah, I got to meet your dad. He loves you, man.
he's a wildly kind dude. He's an American gem. I'm a firm believer in everything he does with it, man. But but that guitar, I'll never forget it. It's the first time in Nashville. I walked into Groon's Guitars.
Oh wow.
And it's
Never
a room.
been.
Dude, it's a room full of just beautiful pieces. Some of the finest collection in the world, and that guitar sat in my lap, and I couldn't leave it. I was 2.5 hours into playing this.
That's crazy. Everything's kind of lining up in an odd way. I'm like one of those crazy people with the maps and stuff on their wall that's like making the connections.
CSI Miami.
I don't know what that says about my personality, but what's weird is I'm pretty sure this is the guitar that I wrote that song I had played on. And then, speaking of dads, so my dad passed away in 2013. And, I was didn't know what to do, but Jessie and I, my girlfriend, we drove to Chicago to see one of her favorite singers, Patty Griffin, who's a great Americana songwriter, singer. And the next day after the show, we went to Chicago Music Exchange. It's a dangerous place to go if you're a musician.
One of the best Instagrams too for any musical content. I believe that they've really done something special. What's that guitar player?
Their intention.
Zeppelin Baranatra or something like that.
Yeah.
Dude does some of the most beautiful fingerstyle arrangements I've ever listened. He does Cashmere on a B Bender Gibson Hummingbird.
Oh, man.
And I shat my pants, brother. I mean, like, I was in a position that, like, it was detrimental in my day to watch that video a second time.
That's when you know it's good.
Dude, it was it.
Yeah, actually, we should talk about Cashmere later. But yeah, so I found that, I saw that guitar. I was already thinking about a Martin. And I picked it up, and it was, like, right away. I just hit a C chord, and I was like, yeah, I think I need this. And, and I've had that since 2013. And
This thing kicks.
I put a cheap, the K and K pickup.
Those aren't cheap. You're
like,
crazy.
That one was like $90,
okay.
and it, they just,
great bridge pin installation. Looks hardy.
Never an issue with it, but
beautiful guitar, man.
This is kind of all weird, and sorry if I'm going way out there.
You shouldn't be.
But speaking of my dad, I've never shared this with the public, so to speak, but like I was playing in Dayton, Ohio, about a year ago, and this guy comes up to the stage, and he looked vaguely familiar, and then it clicked. It was my dad's old neighbor in Beaver Creek, Ohio, and Carl is his name, and he said, I've got something I think you might want, and he pulled this out of his pocket, his breast pocket, and it took me, 1 second to realize it was my dad's watch, because I could just see it on his wrist,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's obviously one of my favorite possessions now, if not the, and I take it everywhere, especially to when I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was stuck at a 230, so I didn't bother, I of course didn't bother putting a battery.
Yeah. Do you wear it at all?
I did for quite some time. It would usually come unlatched. Sometimes I still do, but it's usually right in front of me.
Yeah.
For some
sentimental,
some mojo. Yeah.
Dude. There's something to be said about, like, when you leave this life. It's hard to describe what exactly leaves. The bag's still here. It's like this. Yeah. So when that goes into the cosmos, you got to believe that the places touched down upon and the things held dearly might be able to retain some of the love and resonance that you got there. Like that guitar back there. If you get time to play it, my grandpa's guitar, it takes me to my grandmother, who every guitar lesson I ever took in my life,
like a portal.
Yeah, this woman drove me to every guitar lesson I ever took. She gave me this guitar that was in pieces.
This is
my grandmother. My Nana, when I first got a guitar at 9.
Mom?
My mom's mom, yeah.
Okay.
She says he's going to take lessons. She drove me to every lesson I ever took for 7 or 8 years.
Big.
We had great conversations and then this car ride. She was treating me like an adult for the first time that anyone ever did. Just really gave a shit and talked to me like that.
Yeah.
My parents did that, but it's different when someone has a vested interest like that.
The real deal stuff.
Yeah. So I'm at her house one day, and I get in the closet, and I find that guitar, neck off, body just stuffed in the closet. And I said, "Whose is this?" And she starts telling me about her husband who passed, my grandpa that I never got to meet.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, gives me this guitar. It sits in my closet then for the next 6 years of my life. And at the tail end of her life, I realized I wanted to play this thing for her.
Oh,
I said it was a need.
Yeah, sure.
So I took it to my buddy Doug Fry. If you ever gone to Dharma Guitars in town, does great work.
Yeah.
I said I need this playable. It took him 2 years to get the whole thing done.
Wow.
Put the neck back on, rebinded the whole thing, set her up in a nice way, put a pickup in it. But I got it 2 days before she passed. Oh. So the last thing I ever did on this point,
timing.
Yeah, man. The last thing I ever did with this woman was play that guitar for her. And she's the reason I get to do it. Yeah. She's the reason there's something in my head that tells me to do it. And it's like that's the kind of place where you feel us in stuff. And you don't need the stuff to feel that, but boy, is it there.
Yeah, I wouldn't chalk it all away to material shallowness. There's what's funny is I'm sort of an elemental connection to the other world, you know. And I have a autobiographical thing that's parallel in that I had my mom recently got evicted from a house up in New England, and they were looking for a home for a good 6 months, and they're in a great place now. But during the interim, they had all this stuff in a storage facility in Jersey, and so I had a lot of my record collection, and you know, I didn't bring all that when I moved away. A lot of early gig archives and photographs from when I was first starting, and you know, anyway, Hurricane Ida hit the storage facility and wiped out a ton of their stuff, and most of mine that was there. You know, my first guitar that my brother got me. You know, it was like, but it was. I'm not looking for any kind of pity or anything, but it was a spiritual thing to, you know, like some of that stuff, it really did hurt. You know, you'd wake up in the middle of the night like, wow, like, you know, what was in that photo album? Like, I'm not, you know.
Yeah.
And then what's wild is I started working on something like I don't know if it'll be a novel, but a short story or a narrative that's a companion to some music I'm recording currently. And, you know, a similar tragedy and chaos hits the main character at the startup, you know, which simultaneously sends him on a new journey, you know, but this thing about, with a few elemental objects that he does retrieve. But there is something about some objects are very, very special and sort of connected to the other world, you know, in a spiritual sense, you know.
Well, something is as like storied as like Frampton's Les Paul, where
wow, that's one for you.
Yeah, you know, you talk about the way this guitar gets retrieved after many years, and I think there's a check on our possessiveness. You know, we like to have things in our life, and we like to believe they have value, and it's good to be reminded that you don't get to take any of that to the other side when you go. It serves a purpose here, and you hope it continues to serve that purpose here. But there's no denying when that guitar got back in that guy's hands that there's a feeling that you can't replace with anything else in this human world. It's like that gave him his hits. You know, that song forced those things to come out of his head, and it was there for him. That
it has a layered history for him.
Yeah,
it's not really an object. It's this. It's not, you know.
It's a companion.
Yeah, it's beyond an object. It has this layered history, and I've got a quick story. So I told you about my older brother's best friend that helped, you know, guide me, usher me into music and guitar. So one of those guitars that would sing with Angel Music when he'd open the case was a Stevie Ray Vaughan signature model. And when I was about 16, I traded him a guitar and with some cash to get that guitar. And it became my main axe. Well, there was a time my parents had separated, and I was living with my mom. She was working a job, and I was playing out to, you know, keep us afloat, you know, around high school. And we had a break-in. While we were home, didn't know it happened. Go down in the morning, and 6, 7, I still don't know, 6, 7 guitars gone, you know, some other things. That was one of them. What was a real kick in the pants was in the yard. I had some CDs of my own of my band, and they had left those strewn in the yard. Like, we can't make any money off these, man. So that was like a real kick in the pants. But
dude, there's no better album cover than your other album in the yard.
In the yard. Thank you, man. That'll be it. So we. That's great.
That's heavy.
That's really funny. So anyway, for about 6 months, I'm going to pawn shops looking for that guitar. You know, the others hurt too, but that was like, where is it? You know, it was like an appendage. Anyway, I get a random call from the recovery room downtown Dayton. Hey, we had a report out for a guitar, and one showed up down here. Can you describe the one you're looking for? And I said, well, it's a sunburst. And they're like, what's sunburst? You know. And I said, well, it's kind of black on the edges, and then it blends into brown. They're like, get down here. And it was like, wow, I remember it was like a blue sky, not a cloud sky. And I go down there, and this lady walks out. and it was out of its case. She just had it in one hand. She had a Klondike bar in the other one. She was like, "Is this it?" I was like, "That's it." And that was the only one that came back to me. God knows.
It's still in your life?
I always thought maybe like I'd be watching like a late night and like John Mayer or somebody would walk out with one of the other ones, like Pee-wee when he sees his bike. But anyway, so that's the strat you usually I'm usually playing.
Really?
Still, I got that one back.
So how long you had it before it got taken?
About there was I knew of it for about 10 years. It was in my possession for about 5. You know.
And then it got stolen, and now it's been in for another
20. Yeah,
dude, that's remarkable. That's one of those ones that's meant to be. You know, like I'm a big believer that I don't need to buy any more guitars. I want lifers. I want something I'm gonna keep for a long time,
like a good suit.
Yeah, because
I'm gonna do it right.
The acquisition and turnover is heartbreaking and financially disruptive, and all these things. It's like, I don't need to distract myself with the gear, and I still do. I still look at Craigslist every day just to see if someone's selling some bullshit I find interesting. But I try to keep myself calm and not always be driving to get another guitar. It's like, no, I still need to get songs out of some of these. You know. Also, this guitar fits so right under your arm. No, my goodness.
It's a really. I grew to love it. You know. I grew to love that guitar.
Yeah, man. Do you mind if we bust out these guitars from my buddy Bill?
Oh, let's do it.
Cool. I would love for you to see these.
I'm having way too much fun, and I feel like this could have been 5 minutes or 4 hours, and I wouldn't know.
We're getting close to the hour mark. Well, we're a little over the hour.
Okay.
Keep it going, Jam.
Yeah, exactly. We're having a good time. I don't got to be nowhere.
Oh, this is so much fun.
Dude, Noah plays like nobody else. So, yeah, the next one's in the case here. I printed what these were off just to give...
Edit this one part out.
No, brother. It all stays. It all stays. I'm getting some more as well.
This thing is disgusting.
What?
This thing is
like how rad it is?
Beautiful.
So just wait till I read you this bio on this guitar. And let me give a shout out to my buddy Bill. This guy goes out to a lot of shows. He's the kind of listener that deserves better from me and better from all of us, because he goes out and he supports shows, and he pours his expendable time and a little bit of cash into making sure that people get heard. It's like, that's a special person.
This is Bill?
Yeah, this is Bill Hurlsizer.
Holsizer. Yeah, I know Bill. Great, yeah.
You know Bill. That's why he was so excited for us to play these guitars. So, but he told me about him. That one is
This is great.
Because he's been telling you to play that guitar? So this is a nickel-plated Duolian serial number C147. He says, lots of great videos made first month and year, January of 1931. So an incredible piece.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt.
Please.
Keep going. This would be another rabbit hole.
Maybe
we could circle back to it. No, so Bill is responsible for he connected me with Philip Paul, and I don't know if you're hip to Philip. He passed away not too long ago. He was the session drummer at King Records.
I was familiar with him for playing with Ben Levine a little bit towards the end of his life, and
yeah, exactly. And Ben's a great friend. And
I still have not gotten to meet Ben. I would love to have him on any of these programs. So if you speak highly of the experience, hopefully we can get him on. Ben, please.
He's the real deal.
He really he has so much love for it. So does his father. They are an amazing addition to our music scene, and they take something to the heritage of the blues in the same way that you do, man. That's special shit.
They're special people. But, yeah.
1931 National Duolian? I don't even know how to say that.
I wonder what he's got this tune to here.
I think it's standard.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's funny. What is this exotic tune?
Now, give me your E really quick. Close enough for now. Let's give him something, brother.
Wow.
Here, I'll back you up.
Okay.
My goodness. You crazy, Noah.
This thing is like, it's like, what would you compare it to? It's like being in a Zephyr.
Dude, I don't even know how, because that guitar plays so eerily well. It has an interesting tonality. Hold on, let me pull this verb off. Hey, would you mind helping us switch really quick? Because I want you to see this one too. This one has such a great wide neck to it. And that one has the mojo that screamed to me initially.
What did I do to deserve this?
The playability of that guitar,
really.
the nickel plated is so eerie, man.
Now, what is this? This looks even older.
Yeah, so that one's the 1930 Triolean walnut neck.
This doesn't look like it's from Memphis, Tennessee. It looks like it's from Memphis, Egypt.
Dude, the matte black on there, I think that he said that was the second owner maybe. There was clearly a guy that gigged out on it hard.
This is Holsizer as well?
Dude, it's, yeah, both Bill. He also has his handmade in there.
What kind of racket is he in?
Dude, I don't know what he's doing on the side. Like he's a shady character. One of our most beloved listeners. He's always around the world seeing music he loves. I couldn't.
Well, I'm gonna have to switch vocations.
Exactly. Hey, you want to jump to a different key if you're gonna show him what's hip on this one?
Oh yeah. We could do. Let's do Robert Johnson. Same feel, but A.
Okay, cool.
Let's see if I can. It might be.
How often you throw on a thumb pick?
So it's the weirdest thing. I'll be honest, forthright. When I came back to Cincy, Midwest, from New England, with Jesse, and I just needed gigs, and I started booking like little wine places, and I get out there and it's like I need more oomph on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then I thought of like some blues players that use thumb picks, and even Scotty Moore that played with Elvis, and it just had that oomph on the bottom. And so I just started fooling with it, and I got comfortable with it just from those 3-hour gigs.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'll give this a shot again. And then before I knew it, it was essential to have there. And it just
the peculiarity of it is it feels so odd to play with.
It snuck into my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I watch like Chet play or something like that, a guy who really murders that, and it's like
Chet Atkins.
Yeah, when you think about like your up and down strokes, the evenness, the nuance of the way that he can emote through, his bass lines while focusing on totally other parts of his playing, fucks your mind up,
Oh yeah. Well, Chet Atkins will definitely do that. I just saw on the internet something called Black Mountain Picks, I think. Speaking of endorsements, maybe we'll get one.
Yeah, but someone please give Noah Wotherspoon the cash to play your instrument because it's worth it. Yeah, exactly. It's happening.
And metal. No, so they've got this new thing that they developed, and it's like, it sounds like perfect for someone like me because it's halfway between. It has some kind of like trigger here, and you can kind of go back and forth like a hybrid deal.
Like you can reattach it to your thumb?
I don't even understand it yet. I think I need to order one to feel it out. But
they need to send you one. What's the name of the company again?
Black Mountain Picks. If you're listening,
we'll clip just this.
We need a couple packs for maybe in a couple different gauges, so we can both try them out and see what we think.
You'll see the other performance videos and Noah. Just send him one of these things. He'll make you very happy with it. We'll film him again with these things.
It looks almost like this, but with that attached.
Interesting.
I mean, if you got some super glue, we can maybe do our own version.
But again, to go in and out, to have that ability.
It's got a spring. And
that's bizarre. Where'd you see it?
Man, jeez. Facebook.
I'll clip it and send a VR rep a very specific email.
That's always the best, where it's like, here's a guy talking about needing to show you what's up. No, Aiden is the guy.
Yeah,
this show's gotten a lot better since he came on.
He's doing that ESPN stuff. Man, you could even like amp it up with like that vibe.
First weekend on the road with Aiden. Okay, he is admittedly underage, and our Airbnb leaves us a bottle of wine. He, being the suave young man being the suave young man he is, puts it in a bottle, takes this wine bottle in in a hydro flask, and has the time of his life. He's 40 now, so we're outside of the jurisdiction.
You're way ahead of me, man. I didn't drive till I was about 21. So.
No shit.
Yeah.
What's that about? No interest?
It's for the band. Okay.
Maybe no interest.
Okay.
Yeah, I found myself just... I love Elvis Presley, and I think in my head, because before school, in the day of VHS, I would watch Elvis in the 70s.
Yeah.
It gave me confidence.
He didn't drive himself nowhere.
No, he'd be like the morning after the show, and like, hey guys, how did it sound in there? Sounded great, and I'd be like, yeah, I just want to be driven around.
Yeah.
So my friends would pick me up. I mean, I wasn't
it worked out for a
delusional.
long amount of time. No, you got 2 decades into it, man.
Yeah.
And we could get back there. People would show some goddamn respect to Noah Wotherspoon, okay?
Here's a wild one. Yeah. No, Jack Kerouac on the road. Didn't drive. He didn't have a license, I don't think.
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah. You into Kerouac?
Not too much.
Oh, right.
I'll get hip. I'm going to listen back to this and pull some names.
I'd be honored to bring that into the picture, man.
Please.
He changed my perspective of the whole cosmos when I was... Yeah, we can talk about that in a minute. Let's play these guitars.
Yeah, man. Now I'm out,
amazing.
dude. Yeah, dude, the combination of the two. He offered to sell that one to me, and I was really tempted. But again, I need lifers, and as much as I enjoyed that guitar, I don't know if I'm ready for it.
Wow.
The mojo, man.
On down the street, some local woman stopped breaking down on me, stop breaking down. Woo, yeah, stop breaking down. Well, that stuff are gonna bust the bands out, baby. Gonna make her lose your worried mind. Well, I gave my baby 99 degrees. She'll jump up and throw the pistol down on me. Stop breaking down. Woo, yeah, stop breaking down. Yeah. Well, that stuff are gonna bust the bands out, baby. Well, I'll make her lose your worried mind. Matt Water.
Don't treat him like that, Noah. Come on, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Little satellite women, they love to ebb and clown. Won't do nothing but tear up a good man's reputation down. Stop breaking down. Ooh, yeah, stop breaking down. Well, that stuff are gonna bust the bands out, baby. Gonna make you lose your worried mind.
Send him that goddamn thumb pick, y'all. Do you understand? Like, you're a nasty dude, Noah.
Oh, that is something, man.
Dude.
Talking about, you said something earlier about something pulling stuff out of you didn't know.
There's great mojo in that guitar. I've been feeling it all week, man. Tell Bill you want it next. Bill, I'm not saying you have a customer. I'm not, but you have a rental agreement going on here.
Bill, drop this off sometime. No,
the low end on that thing, compared to this, just the pure body and the impact of that guitar is astonishing.
There's this wild, like, good God. It sings.
Yeah, it really does. And I think the width of the neck lends to a great slide feel. Like, and maybe it could use some love. Here, I was just gonna ask you about this. You walk bass lines with your middle finger while you're chording. What is up with that?
Oh, that's me just using what's available.
Is that how you always learned? Is that a technique thing you developed as a young man? Sometimes you thumb rap?
Yeah, and this style of playing, I mean, I'm still more of an electric player than acoustic.
Don't seem like that. Seems like you just play.
It's all, it's all resorting to what feels comfortable. What's there without,
Well, you cloud so much less of your potential, intonation when you get a finger that has, like, the ergonomics of your hand on the instrument. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. And it wasn't until a Steve Vai or an Yngwie as a young kid to make you go, like, there's no way what I'm doing can become that without me fixing something. So let me figure out what that something is.
Right.
I'll never forget a guitar lesson I got from a guy in town named Carlos Vargas, which if you ever get to see a guitar duo, that's Carlos Vargas and Brandon Scott Coleman, if you know Brandon Coleman.
Yeah.
Brandon's a monster. These two together.
He's a heavy hitter, man.
Dude, they speak to each other through their instrument in a way that I've never seen a conversation be held. I mean, I was melted like hot butter in a microwave for the third time today. It was something.
Oh, yeah.
But Carlos was telling me, like, the space between the note you're playing and your finger above the next note you're going to is important to make sure you can get there when you want to get there.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, when you're practicing when you're just going chromatic, it's like the space between where you're going next.
Oh, that's...
And I was 17, and I was like, it made me feel like garbage for years. It still makes me feel like garbage because that's the most telling part of your actionability,
Those notes in between the arrival note.
Yeah, well, not just like the note in between, but like your access to your next note in its full resonance at the full. Can you give the instrument what it wants to project that fully?
Quality on every note. Yeah. That's something. That's a
It's a different approach to put your day in. Like if you start to focus on that, it's like everything sucks. Everything's just horrible.
Yeah. I'll float in between lapses of going into those kind of details and trying to improve technically, into long lapses of just more of an abstract space of trying to, in the realm of songwriting, and they seem separate. they seem like almost two different dimensions.
You're saying like the sides of your songwriting between the abstract and the formatted in some ways. Like sometimes you pull from a 12 bar, you pull from a shape of another song, and sometimes it just tells you.
Yeah. For me, there was a period of time where I was really focusing in on just trying to become a better player, and I was watching like Robin Ford tutorial. He does a lot of great educational stuff, and there's endless resources now, and kind of tapping into that academic side and trying to expand, which they do cross-pollinate, because sometimes that stuff will unconsciously slip into maybe some writing.
Yeah.
When you expand there, it'll show up maybe 6 months later, maybe a year later.
Yeah.
But
One thing I'd love to ask you about, as someone that's written for a large portion of their life, and if there's anything that I'd be vocal to other players about doing with their time, it's capturing your songs in the frame that you feel is performable and entertaining to you, because the chronology that your songs put your life in the perspective of, the things you were learning, the things you were feeling, the dams you could not build and the bridges you could not cross, shit that's just it's there for you in a different way. Like we talked about, the songs kind of get pulled out of you by instruments and by moments in life. But to be able to look back on your life, years don't mean shit to me. Songs mean something to me. I remember what was going on there, whether it's a song for someone I miss or for someone I love,
Yeah. They're the soundtrack to your existence.
Yeah. So what was the first time you felt like you stamped your life down in a song?
Well, maybe the one I played for you a little bit ago.
And I, again, like the half steps of that, the dissonance of that for such a young man is such a beautiful piece.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's I started writing songs around my senior year of high school, and a few things culminated. A few things added up for me to get to writing, and my friend Greg was instrumental in nudging me to start writing my own material. But also, when I was actually in junior high, I have this friend. He was a well-known guitar player in Columbus named Rob McNally, and he ended up moving to Nashville, and since has done very well. He'd done a lot of session work, and he was Bob Seger's guitar player for a while.
Fuck yeah.
Delbert McClinton. But he was
D-Town hero.
Really, really generous, like, with sharing music. And I remember even when he first moved to Nashville, he was still sending me cassettes of stuff and like, have you ever heard of this? And it wasn't only blues, it was like Harry Nilsson Schmilson, like, and he just like musical stuff. And I had known about the Beatles, and I think my introduction to the Beatles was the Chipmunks sing the Beatles when I was I had, like, the cassette when I was a kid, which I revisited recently, and like that's pretty wild. But anyway,
that's a strangely current licensing agreement for something as classic as the, like at the time, the Beatles aren't the legacy that we know them to be. They're something. They're a monolith, but would you put them as a permanent part of your imaginary microcosm, man? Like, that's weird. You think of like what the Yellow Submarine cartoons did for pop culture, and what they were as a phenomenon in the world of boy bands. It's like nothing was ever the same.
Yeah, they elevated consciousness in a way. I mean, they brought Eastern music here. It's all the sonic innovations with George Martin. It's an endless study, and they'll be talking about it for hundreds of years. Yeah, but he taped the anthology series off ABC and sent me the VHS tapes. So I remember his writing on the side, and that was what just like their story, their humble beginnings, and then like Hamburg and the Star Club, and then it's just all surreal. But I think I was first. not only taken by the quality of the material and the pure genius of it all, but the amount, the prolific side of like, oh my God, they were so industrious and they were turning out a song a day.
What a great way to put it, industrious.
Especially
they were a factory.
It was like in the early days, especially, it was like, we need this many songs for this release, and they did it. And I think that was also kind of a lit a fire to like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to write songs all the time. And I got into this practice once I started rolling, that I've continued up until pretty recently, where I made myself write around 20 songs every 6 months. And so I would put them on these, I would mix them from a Tascam down to a CD, and it would be like a private album to me of about 20 songs. And maybe one of those would end up on something I released later. But so I got up to about, like, I'm on the 30th collection of those. I'm 41 now. So
the 30th collection of 20 songs. You are a maniac. You are a factory, Noah. That's awesome. Congrats.
I mean, there might be 3 good songs on it.
I don't care. You know, the labor is part of your craft.
That weird pressure. It's like almost like a quota to try to meet. I've been easier on myself, though. I haven't been. Now I've been more in the practice of trying to shape some of those up into presentable shape, and just get some of it out. Like, I need to clean house, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
That's heavy, man. I went through a process of, I had a lawsuit about some material, and it's like,
oh, wow.
I'm not a big enough person to be going through the troubles that I went through with this material.
No kidding.
But now I'm circling back and trying to finish it. And sometimes you feel bogged down trying to make the art in the purest form when the art isn't current to you. Sometimes it's like, now it's age, it's sat on the shelf, and I know what it is. Some of it's like, I don't even remember what this guy was talking about.
Yeah.
And something about that drives you crazy.
There's too much of a distance from it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's slightly frustrating at first. It's like, oh, this isn't, there's no electrical current between me and it.
Yeah. And there's an art, there's a discipline in pulling that out of it, of finding what's amazing about it, because those aren't the fun hours. Those are the heavy working men's hours where you are a factory and someone's clocking in, clocking out. But your song's your output, man. It's your export.
I have a question for you. Have you ever written anything that felt throwaway that somebody else noticed something in?
Yeah, everything that's online.
Yeah.
Like that. It's been such a great informative thing that, like, if you would get out of your own goddamn way and check these awful opinions that you're full of, you might have some good ideas. But it only comes when people humble you by appreciating the simplest aspects of creation, man.
Yeah.
We're so lucky that we have people that enjoy things. To have anyone that says, I heard you, and I felt you, and I felt understood by you. You've taken 3 steps into the warm embrace that music is, that makes it so magical, man.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about that weird thing of sometimes, we're not the best judges of what we do, and it's a weird phenomenon of like someone picking up, like, I think you're trying to be too clever over here, but that simple thing that you just did, man, that hit me.
Yeah. Well, you can keep pushing on the complicated. You never know when those things are going to work out. But I think there's something about agreeing when someone else says yes. It's like, these songs can be your private joy, or they can be a shared experience. And when someone else chooses to share in that, you can say enough is enough, or you can go back in and tinker and you might ruin the thing. Like, would you play us the first one that you felt like comes from that category of, I tried to throw this away, and someone went dumpster diving through my shit, Hey, would you mind helping him trade out with this? We'll put that guy back in this case here.
Thank you for sharing.
Bill, thank you so much again for sharing these. These are such works of art, man, and your collection means something to the world, brother. Do you want your Martin?
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Would you mind giving this?
I'm not wearing you guys out, am I?
No, not in the slightest.
I'll take both.
Yeah.
You're all right.
This has been such a nice experience, brother, and I'm trying to let the show take its own shape for what I really enjoy, and it's someone coming across here and letting me ask what they're playing and playing me their songs like I'm 10,000 people, You rock whether it's a full room or 2 guys in a basement. It's some guy's mom's basement, you know?
So that's a good segue, because it happened in a basement. I had had a rough night, and I had gone home. It was raining, and I wrote this song. And I saw it as a throwaway, and I happened to just kind of do the front lick of it at a rehearsal, and we were in a basement, and Griffin Hussong was playing bass in the band I was in at the time. He was the son of a guy named Shakin' Dave Hussong, who passed away recently, and he was like a Renaissance man. He was a great musician, a vintage guitar shop owner, had a radio show on public radio, blues show, for over 30 years. And his son, we played together, and Griffin was a great musician, bass player. And so I just did the front to this lick, like fooling around. He said, "What was that?" You know? It was like, "Oh, I was something I was messing with last night." He said, "Well, play it, man. Let's play it."
Dude.
And so, and it's kind of like become something that's, you know, now almost in every show I play, you know.
That's so excellent. So shout out to him. What's his name one more time?
Griffin Hussong.
Griffin, congratulations. You got nice taste. It made the long haul.
He's got a new baby. He's got a beautiful wife and a salsa business, and he's in North Carolina now.
That's excellent. What part of North Carolina?
Jeez, I think near Asheville.
Cool.
Yeah.
What a beautiful part of the world, man.
Agreed.
I love touring down there.
Man.
It's a great place to sit down and kick it for a little bit with an acoustic on a porch.
Yeah, you're in the ghost of Doc Watson is there. Yeah, that's the magic area. That's mystical.
For sure.
Yeah, so this is called Dead Man's Shoes. She pulled my arm onto the floor. I twirled her once and then no more. She asked what's wrong with the look of concern. I said, I've reached the point of no return. Walking in a dead man's shoes. My cold feet leave me nothing to lose. Lately I take the back seat, the wrong way down a one-way street. Shrapnel stuck inside my soul. I'm happy but I'm still not at home. My thoughts are drowning out the room. Your life is like impending doom. Walking in a dead man's shoes. My cold feet leave me nothing to lose. Lately I take the back seat, the wrong way down a one-way street.
walking in a dead man's shoe. But cold feet leave me nothing to lose. Lately I take the back seat, the wrong way down a one-way street.
Oh my God. No, you are a cold motherfucker. Oh my God.
Thank you, man.
Oh, you bring tears to my eyes, brother. Sincerely. All you want to hear is someone take you to the innermost part of their person, and you are a medium to go straight in, man. Thank you for doing it.
I appreciate it. I could just be sleep deprived.
No, brother. I prefer you be on whatever you need to be on to get there, because you took us there, man. But with that, where can people find you? What's the best place?
Oh, sure. So I've got a main website, noahwotherspoon.com. My name
spelled WOTHERSPOON.
Thank you, brother. That's it. I've got a Facebook, Instagram. The website's sort of the main area you can find everything else on. And I've got various projects I'm working on. There's my quote-unquote blues band, which is, blues rock and beyond band. My girlfriend and I have an acoustic duo, Jessie Bear and I. She's got a beautiful voice, and we're hoping to do some more recording this year. I've got sort of a rock project called Rescue Radio that's very Beatles influenced. And then some auxiliary stuff, some writing I'm doing, and it's all on there. It's kind of a little network of things.
Well, brother, you are a gem for our musical community. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing it, man. This has been such a blast.
Right back at you, man. I'm so grateful to know you and think the world of your stuff. So
thanks, man. We'll come back on anytime, very soon, my friends. In the meantime, make sure you follow Noah Wotherspoon, the fucking man. We will talk soon, players. Peace.
God bless. Thank you, man.